Space, the final frontier. Well, okay, not really. All right, take two. Here in the Mitten State, welcome to Code 47, bringing you all things Star Trek, spanning the quadrants, the best thing since the neutral zone.
Back again, friends. It's the Code 47 podcast, episode 77, over on the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. I am your humble servant, Trek Lord of West Michigan. My name is Charlie Carden, captain of the USS Grand Petoskey, a West Michigan chapter of the International Star Trek Fan Club. Joined as always by Peter Stein, my engineer to the stars, we were having this conversation before we started up. If you're watching our YouTube channel, which I hope you are, it's always kind of fun to see what Peter's got going on. He has a nice background laid out, kind of like my partner Todd Oxford does over on SFU Prime, our main show. I like this. And Peter, I was thinking I really do need to get in and probably rearrange this a little bit. I don't want it to get too stale. But Peter is, and he's brave because it's July and we've been in the middle of a heat wave, but he's wearing his full length Enterprise jumpsuit. He's a crewman today. Oh no, you have the pips on. I couldn't quite tell.
They're not correct, but they're there.
They're incorrect pips. Yes. You know what? It's too fuzzy. I can't quite see. What exactly are they?
They're my TNG pips that I just.
Oh no! You madman! Yeah, because I have your pips. You got to swing by and pick those up if they came in the mail.
I'm using it for a role playing game, and so I just
there you go.
So that people know what my rank is.
Very good. I like it. So anyway, it's Peter. How are you? This lovely rainy Sunday. God, last night I thought the world was going to blow away. It was. We could have used the weather modification net to correct for some of that stuff. It was
hilariously. I was playing a video game, Valheim. We were building some stuff. And then it started storming out here. I was like,
"Oh my
that's
God,
interesting!" I peeked out the window and I was like, "Oh, the tree, everything shaking." And then 2 minutes later in the game, it started thunderstorming, which I thought.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, we lost power twice. We were watching some new movie on. It was The Gray Man, that new movie on Netflix with that the Russo brothers did with Chris Evans and what's his ass? They actually call him McKindall in it, which is hilarious. Oh, Ryan Gosling. It was great, but anyway, the Wi-Fi went out twice, and we're like, we just go to bed. It's like 10:30 or whatever. So after we had a great, we worked a show. The club worked a show yesterday out in Grand Haven, KoganCon, which was awesome. But anyway, I could pontificate about that forever, but it was a big day, and I was in between talking to people at the show. I was glued to my phone because San Diego Comic-Con is going on. I believe it's certainly by the time you listen to this, it'll have wrapped up. But yesterday we had 3 different Star Trek panels out there in San Diego, and we got 3 phenomenally significant pieces of information, 2 amazing trailers, and then news about a crossover, which would be the first that we've had since the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. Well, I guess if you looked at the last episode of Enterprise, which nobody wants to do. Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. It was a damn holiday program, and it was an abomination. Yeah, but we'll get to that further down much further down the road. I'll tell you, Peter, when I was on vacation and sitting and playing with my laptop, I was sharing with you and Katie, kind of mapping out what I want to do super, super, super long term for the show, like episodes I want to do 5 years from now or longer. And at the end, when we get through all of these series, I want to do top 10 best. I want to do like a deep dive in each one of those top 10s, and then I want to do a quick top 10 worst. And I think a lot of the Enterprise, I think it's going to be easy for some of those episodes of Enterprise. But anyway, so the 3 big pieces of news. First and foremost, we're coming off of Picard season 2, which on this program we were not very big fans of, but we know that we know Picard season 3 has long since wrapped. I have a feeling we're going to see it in the first quarter of 2023, because I feel like they've fallen into a pattern where these streaming shows are dropping at the same time every year. So Picard was in 2020, it was February. 2021, I believe it was also February, and so I'm thinking, for 20. No, did we miss it? Wait a second. I might have gotten that wrong. Because the first season of Picard was 2020. Did we get it? Did we not have? I don't think we had it at all in 2021
because
of COVID.
In 2021.
Yeah, and then we got obviously
film 2 and 3 back to back, basically.
There you go, exactly. So anyway, now in the first quarter we'll be seeing this, but yeah, it was the news dropped 3 months ago that the entirety of the TNG cast was going to return. Including the main cast, exactly. But
we don't get Barclay.
We don't get Barclay. We don't get Sela, Tasha Yar, but we're supposed to ostensibly have Brent Spiner as Asung, not probably, as Data. But
probably Alton Inigo.
The same character we saw in season 1. But essentially we're getting the other 6 characters plus Picard returning in their roles. So we got both, these great character portraits, and then we got a trailer that showed, each character kind of do a turn, and they had an iconic line. So just an absolute a lot to unpack. So we first kicked off the first or second image was Worf, Captain Worf, wearing what
looks like Worf.
I know, exactly. They have not really done much with his character as far as giving him crazy ridges. Completely shock white, long hair, wearing what I think looks like potentially a new version of like a captain's bomber's jacket, I'm thinking. Because if you look at it, it does have that kind of leather pleather look to it.
Yeah, and it had like 2 lines down the sides.
Right. I mean, Peter and I are, if you listen to the show, Peter and I are costumers. We really pay attention to that kind of stuff. So I'm certainly really very fired up about that. We moved on to see Geordi LaForge, who is wearing Commodore's badge, if you remember from first season.
It looked like Worf had a bat'leth on his back.
It did look like that, yeah. So that's and there are some, even you chimed in on socials and said, and I made mention, Worf, Captain of the Enterprise, at the end of a tie-in novel that was a prequel to Picard season 1. That was the job he got when Picard left the Enterprise to take his admiralty, and he was running that Romulan reclamation project, blah, blah, blah. But again, non-canonical, unless the TV show makes it canonical. So fingers crossed for that. LaForge, Commodore, wearing a variation of a senior officer's uniform. Yeah. Riker wearing he had pips, but he was wearing what looked like another variation of potentially
he looked like he was just wearing civvies with some pips and a comm badge.
Which is weird, but uniform. We saw 7 of 9 wearing the Starfleet uniform from last season, which means I'm actually going to buy it because I was holding off.
Which is nice because that's a snazzy uniform. And I was sitting there when I first saw Worf and Geordi, I was like, please don't be just switching up the uniform every season.
Right. And in 3 different ways. Different ways. If
I'm okay with variants, but if you're gonna everyone gets a new uniform every season,
right?
No thanks.
That's been Todd's big complaint. Talking to I was in the Air Force for 5 years, and they change military uniforms once every 50 years or whatever it is. That's very true, but it's a TV show. You see Picard and Troy and Dr. Crusher all in civvies, so potentially they're not in. Though we do know Picard was in Starfleet at least last season, so yeah, we don't know. Each one of them got a great character portrait, and I was a buzz on social media, like I said, in between doing stuff at the show yesterday. So that was kind of all the information we got. We have no idea what the plot line of the series will be. Obviously, they're all back together again. I'm sure there's some big threat, and because we have the long arc storytelling way of. That's very popular today that we've had for the other 2 seasons. So I would imagine that's kind of what we're going to see here. So I mean, oh my God, I'm fired up because if you think about it, and again, you and Katie and I in several weeks are going to dissect 2002's Star Trek Nemesis, which was the send-off for the TNG cast back in 2002. Spoiler alert, I know I hated it and thought it was a very, very poor send-off for
Final Frontier for the next generation. It's not not as bad as Final Frontier, I would say, but it's not good.
Right, exactly. It was an attempt, but again, we're not going to get into the particulars of that. Yeah. But yeah, yikes. So I'm really fired up. Like I said, my prediction is February of next year we'll get what I assume is 10 episodes, and let this be a fitting not only send off to Picard after having a very weak season in season 2, but then a proper send off to our TNG characters. So
yeah, they got to do it like justice, like All Good Things. All Good Things still, in my opinion, has the best ending out of any show because it's the swan song, it's the curtain call. Like they did it really well.
Wrapped it
the
up
other
in
shows
a bow.
just didn't manage to pull it off.
Right. I mean, I was very fond of the finales of both DS9 and Voyager, but I do see where you're coming from.
Oh, I liked that's a different topic, I guess. But like, yes, I enjoyed them. I just thought the final shot in Voyager just didn't work for me. Like, I felt they needed another scene. That's
right.
It.
Right. Yeah. It was just too much dangling, but, again, not that it launched a whole novel series, which also is non-canonical, but I did enjoy it. I followed I followed the Voyager post relaunch series longer and a little bit more completely than I did the DS9 one, though I did read that for several years. And those all came out in the early 2000s. And I mean, I
think I've read one or two here and there, but I mostly read like the Dominion War books and stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah. No, I know. I dug on those as well. All right. Moving on. Lower Decks season 3. We're getting it in 31 days, or rather 30 days on the dot if you're listening to this episode when it comes out on Monday. Super fun trailer, which I should have watched it again before we sat down and talked about it.
So should I have it?
I just watched it. I watched it on my phone, and then I also shared it with April and Lori at the event because the three of us were working the event yesterday. But this was, it was great. It's kind of got a Search for Spock vibe where that you see. At least Boimler and Mariner are stealing the Cerritos out of space dock, and you're seeing, and it's funny, I just posted on Twitter that great image of her stealing what looks like the Chachapoyan idol from Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's a little Klingon from Raiders. And she's swinging across a chasm. So Raiders of the Lost Ark being, my favorite film of all time. I definitely loved on that. But yeah, a lot of just great Lower Decks humor. It's like, being in Starfleet isn't just about aliens with slightly off-center generic ridges. It's also about blah blah. It's just. And then I loved, and I turned around and shared this on social media as well, the Starfleet Career Day where they have the tent and the table, and I'm like, it would be amazing if we could set up one of our future events to be like that. If we had an outdoor event,
sure we could pull it off.
Yeah, just to order a big tent that just says Starfleet, and then we have a table that has a model of a ship and some brochures and like a little whatever
ships that are that size. We can totally do that.
I think that would be super fun. We did have an outdoor show in Monroe, Michigan that we were going to do that we ultimately ended up backing out of because I just can't hardly see sitting outside all day in the baking sun. I think it would be a real bummer. So that's kind of why we dialed that one back. But this is going to be amazing. And again, I would love it if Katie was on talking with us about this. We are in our next episode. I'm going to have Katie coming back. We're going to spend the next 2 episodes doing a roundup of season 1 and season 2 of Lower Decks, and just talking about how much we enjoy it to get ready for season 3.
Lower Decks was one of those shows that I was mildly skeptical when they first announced it, just because the animated series was so But
that is absolutely a quick sidebar. Absolutely hilarious you say that, because for the show yesterday we were at an anime con, a Kogan con out in Grand Haven, and it was we had our new TV stand, which April put together, and I forgot the remote control to the stupid Blu-ray player. Even I had a big book about anything, and then oh my god, I forgot the remote. So Lori says to me, well, if they have Wi-Fi, just jack into the Wi-Fi and we'll just show animated stuff. So we did. We showed all of Prodigy, and then I just put the animated series on for the rest of the time because it really fit the theme. And then we also did a panel, Lori and April and myself, about animated Star Trek, and we were just winging it. April put together a very simple PowerPoint, and we were just winging it. So we were all very immersed in animated Star Trek yesterday. But anyway,
yeah, it's great. I think it looks like Lower Decks is continuing with their thing of all like little Easter eggs and goofy stuff, because it looked in the trailer like we'll be seeing Tendi and Rutherford. I think they're going to Montana to the Phoenix launch site, because there's a shot with them looking up and they're wearing hats that look like Zephram Cochrane's hat. And so they're probably like souvenirs from a gift shop.
Oh my god. Oh no.
I could be wrong, but that's what it looked like.
I absolutely need to have a second look, and we will get all if you look at on our socials, all these trailers, everything we're talking about will be posted. So definitely go check those out on Twitter or on Facebook. So last real bit of cool news, even though obviously we don't have any footage to go with it. Strange New Worlds is wrapped up. We know we're getting season 2. Again, if I'm using my Star Trek crystal ball, I'm going to say that's probably definitely going to be May of 2023 that we're going to be seeing that. But we've landed our first crossover, our first true crossover since Bashir was in an episode of TNG in season 6, and Loxana Troy would cross over and be on DS9. But having actual core characters interact,
since Riker was on Voyager, like when he was physically on the ship, that was the last time.
There you go. Yeah, and even that was a toss away because it was a Q, so it wasn't like he was there doing anything.
Because Barclay doesn't count. He was a hologram.
Barclay doesn't count. Now Troy did show up, but Troy showed up on Voyager, but she was not on Voyager.
I'm just saying the last time there was like person on ship,
right?
Of other show.
Exactly. So yeah, it would absolutely be Riker's very brief appearance in the episode Death Wish season 2 of Voyager. I love that you and I can riff like this, like I know the episode and because we're both such friggin' nerds, but that's okay. That's what we do here. But anyway, we're talking about Strange New Worlds crossing over with the animated Lower Decks. Oh my God. And so April and I immediately started talking. I'm like, is this going to be like a Cool World scenario where you've got
apparently not.
Yeah, where the Strange New Worlds is live action and the Lower Decks, or is it going to be like the episode of Supernatural where they did Scooby Doo and everybody is animated? So you say apparently not. I have not, and again, I was catching this all super secondhand. Do they get more specific as you go through?
I saw the clip of Jack Quaid and Tawny Newson crashing the Strange New Worlds panel.
Oh, I see it right here. They walk up behind and they're just like,
it was really funny. So I saw that, and then underneath was a little tiny blurb, and what it sounds like is that they're kind of pulling what the CW does.
Yeah,
where they're going to do at least part is live action, like Strange New Worlds,
right?
And then there's part that's going to be animated, but it's not like they're both at the same time.
Right.
So there's going to be live action Lower Decks characters on Strange New Worlds.
Oh my God. So it is going to be like Cool World. Cool World, if you don't know, is a 1991 Brad Pitt movie. So it's like right at the beginning of his career. And I have not seen it since 1991. I would say I don't know if it's streaming out there. I wouldn't recommend it.
It's out there.
All I remembered is that it was really bad. Think about how Who Framed Roger Rabbit was really great as far as integrating live action and animated. Yeah. And then, so there's gotta be, there's no double-headed coin when it comes to stuff like that. Heads is going to be good. Tails is going to be bad. So the coin was flipped and that's what you got. But I have very little doubt that this is going to be spectacular. I just absolutely cannot.
And the crossover was directed by Jonathan Frakes, so
my God,
it's going to be
good. So you've got basically the two best modern era Star Trek shows of the 4 that they've made, and then you have the best Star Trek director of the last 25 years. Excuse me, 30 years actually, because Frakes started directing in 1990 in season 3 he did the episode with Data's daughter, which is called
Offspring.
Thank you very much. Exactly. That was his directorial debut. And then that became his career, both within and without the Star Trek franchise and the things he's done. So, yeah, he's great. I've read several blurbs over the years of actors who said, oh my God, Frakes is directing this episode. Everybody has a great time because he's a great dude. I got the chance to see him again when I was in Chicago a few weeks ago, getting his autograph. He's just a super great guy, or at least he is to fans. He's nice to fans as opposed to William Shatner. Compared to William Shatner, here's a quick sidebar piece of note. Who, when I saw he was going to be at Grand Rapids Comic-Con or at San Diego Comic-Con, and he was sitting in on some of the panels, he's 91 years old and apparently has just zero fucks left to give, because he said modern Star Trek would make Gene Roddenberry spin in his grave. And he said F Star Wars when someone asked him about Star Wars.
Except Mark Hamill. He did make that caveat.
Oh, okay. That part I missed. But I'm like, all I said when I said on social media, as I said when I said I was going to be there, I said he's 91. I just want to see him do something crazy. And he did not disappoint me. Thank you very much, William Shatner.
I quite enjoy when he shows up because he always does something interesting.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're running a little long on time, so the other 2 stories we're here were just kind of ancillary. But did you have any further thoughts on overall on what we learned at San Diego?
I wasn't a lot story-wise, but I did like seeing like the TNG crew and that kind of stuff.
I think as far as the teaser, they really nailed it. I'm deeply disappointed because we spent, in particular, because of what we were doing yesterday, showing Prodigy, and I got to rewatch bits and pieces of it, that we don't have a drop date of the back half of that season, which is 10 episodes, because previously published accounts are saying, oh, you'll have it before the end of 2022. So I don't know if that means it's going to be concluded by the end of 2022 or simply that it will start airing before the end of this calendar year. So
yeah, they're really fuzzy on that, which is annoying because Prodigy has been pretty good. We all
exactly, and I know
where's Chakotay? What's going on?
Exactly, and I got to debut my Prodigy Chakotay uniform yesterday, which I was very excited about at the show. Very comfortable uniform, by the way. It's roomy. Peter, I would recommend it if you're looking for your next uniform. It's very comfortable. But
I'm thinking maybe the Picard season 2. We'll see.
Oh yes, yeah, and you know what? I'm going to go with the slacks too, because the slacks they're different. The opening is on the side, not the front, and they're piping down the. Listen to us, we're pontificating about uniforms. We're doing it again. I do like the piping, but I feel like the last season of Lower Decks and Prodigy, they were running together last summer. I might be mistaken, but I feel like they were. Okay, so I'm like, why don't they just pull the trigger and say this is going to start on October 1st or something? So anyway, I'm annoyed. I know the people at Paramount are not listening to me, but I'm putting it out, even though I tweeted at Star Trek yesterday. I did not get a tweet back saying, where's Prodigy? But anyway, I have no doubt that news will come our way. And when it does, you will hear it from these guys. So anyway, okay, that is the news. I'm actually going to have a quick pause, and we'll be back in a second, but you won't notice anything. So here we go. Well, that was annoying. I paused it for a minute, and then instead of unpausing it, I hit stop. So for no good reason, now I have to edit us back together again. But anyway, we're back. Shucks, I hate it when that happens. We're back to talk about the end of a road of some kind. What kind of road is that, Peter?
I think it's been a long road.
A long road that leads us to the end of season 2 of Star Trek Enterprise. So this season, which was wrapping up in the spring of 2003, was pretty monumentous. I thought we definitely ended on something very, very strong, which led us into the first season long story arc, which happens in season 3. But not to put the cart before the proverbial horse. Peter, let's get rolling. You go first with episode 21.
Episode 21, The Breach. Directed by none other than Robert Duncan McNeil.
I know. I feel like this was one of the few Trek episodes he did. I don't think he did one in Voyager, or I could be wrong.
I think he did 1 or 2.
Okay.
In Voyager. I don't remember which ones.
Gotcha.
But he did 1 or 2.
Worth researching. Right.
Story by Daniel McCarthy. Teleplay by Chris Black and John Shiban. Aired April 23rd, 2003.
That's my mother's birthday. I won't tell you how old she was.
Due to the demands of a militant faction, Enterprise is asked to retrieve Denobulan geologists from an alien cave. Dr. Phlox must also treat a patient with racist views against his people. That's kind of what you get.
What? I'm sorry. That was me during this episode.
I mean, there's some stuff that's interesting,
I guess, but it's just there's a militant faction. It was like, okay,
retrieve used to be at war.
Yeah, really? Retrieve some, retrieve some geologists. Okay, spelunking. Well, they did that in an episode of TNG with the Worf and Data, and the chain of command when there was that Cardassian trap. Okay. One of the goods injured. Okay. And then, Phlox has to deal with a generationally racist guy whose life he has to save. It's like, it just, there was absolute, character development for Phlox. Yeah. Okay. And there was a part of it that touched a little close home to me because he has, he reveals in conversation with this guy who doesn't want to be treated with him that he has an estranged son. I have an estranged son. I definitely connect with that part of it, but the rest of it, just again, like we've seen in a lot of the season, just super duper generic for me. Yeah. I'm just not digging it. You know what I mean?
I enjoy seeing Denobulans. These ones are kind of
they're really they're obnoxious. They're like, well, we really can't go because this thing and that thing. Well, they're going to blow you up if they. We have a lot of samples or whatever. So you're gonna. It's like, dude, are you friggin' kidding me with this shit?
It's the
We just
classic
told
we're
you.
trying.
Yeah, we just told my partner broke his ankle coming down here. We're trying to save you, and you're just being today. So Trip was like, well, better yet, I can shoot you in the head and throw a rope around your leg and basically drag you back up to 500 meters, however far it is. They had to go back up again. So yeah, I will definitely put this in the category of episodes that I couldn't tell you that they happened. I couldn't tell you what they were called. Again, liking Phlox as a character as I do, I did appreciate that kind of character development, but the rest of it, ugh.
Yeah, it's not amazing.
Baby. But moving on, episode 22 is Cogenitor, directed by LeVar Burton, which, you know, again, boy, they're really racking them up in this last half of the season for actors turned directors. Written by Berna and Braga, so it's which I think bodes well, actually, very much so in this case. April 30 of 2003, Enterprise encounters the Vissians, and Trip finds himself troubled by the fact that the Vissians are a three-sexed species. Definitely ahead of its time. And again, we don't need to talk about gender politics or things related to transgendered individuals. But this was a strictly biological three-sexed species. You have what's equivalent to a male, what's equivalent to a female, and then what's equivalent to basically a breeding stock individual. The male,
they don't really tell you what function. And honestly, when Star Trek tries to talk about sex, it gets weird. So I'm happy that they didn't.
Which is why Kirk never talked about sex. It was just heavily implied with everything he did. And Riker. But this is a great example, I think, character development wise for Trip. And then having really T'Pol as kind of the divining rod of, well, you know, you can't really judge another culture's standards and practices by your own, because that's, you know, the definition of, you know, nationalism or you know, anti what would become the Federation, obviously, which is, you know, the Prime Directive and everyone having the right to their own culture. But, you know, it's not without consequences, because Trip does befriend this Cogenitor who doesn't have a name. They're not really allowed, you know, reading or education. So he's teaching the Cogenitor to read. And then the Cogenitor, you know, it says, well, I really, you know, I really am starting to feel that the way I'm treated is unfair in this thing and that thing. But at the end of the day, when the Cogenitor is not able to obtain his freedom, commits suicide, which is sad and tragic. But it's also a very, like I said, what Star Trek does best, a commentary on, you know, what is very real for those in the LGBT community who can't find acceptance, can't find freedom from people within their own, probably within their own family, really, though the Cogenitor in this case is not a part of the family of this man and woman who are portrayed from this alien species.
Just kind of moved around.
Right, exactly. It's literally a vessel for growing children. So they grow a child, and I'm trying to remember, is there DNA from the man and woman that's grown within the Cogenitor and then it gives birth? I'm trying to remember if that's how it works.
It's not clear. They kind of leave it very vague. They talk about how like the Cogenitor is some sort of like catalyst.
Right.
But they don't really tell you how it works.
Which is fine, because
which is good.
Right. I mean, to dissect it further could be like, well, that's not their biological child. It really should be the Cogenitors and blah, blah. But anyway, it is very sad how, and a commentary on, I think, a very strong through line in Enterprise in general, which is mankind or Earthers in Earth Starfleet. It is not really at the same standard of what you see with TOS or TNG or other Starfleet crews to follow, because they don't have the Prime Directive. They're just now getting out and meeting weird different species that do weird different things, and not fully embracing the fact that they can't really apply human values to the way that things happen with other species, and being able to be accepting of them. It was evident in the very first episode when they were on Rigel Station, and there was that woman trying to wean the child into, with the breathing apparatus, and Trip couldn't understand it. Paul said, you should really resist your impulses to judge alien species by your own standards. And it's now, almost 2 seasons later, and it clearly has not sunk in, or it's very difficult for him.
Well, I mean, with this one in particular, it's not just like, oh, there's something weird happening.
Right.
Like for Trip especially, there's what's very clearly a disparity of value of personhood.
Right.
And like, that's something that even through the later shows, like that's still an issue for humans and Starfleet in general. It's
Right.
like you do your own weird thing, that's fine. But if you're treating someone without rights and you're treating them basically as property, which is kind of how they were treating the Kajender, yeah, everyone's going to have a problem with that. And that continues even in later shows.
Right.
But they'll just handle it a little bit better.
Exactly correct. Yeah. So anyway, I thought this was a great episode. And again, Star Trek really doing what it does best, not only with social commentary on things that actually have evolved into something very different in the last 20 years, but then just really developing along their characters and finding ways to kind of educate them and inform their emotional journey as the show goes on. So anyhow, the next one is a real whiz-bang adventure. Peter, it's all yours.
Episode 23, Regeneration. Directed by David Livingston, written by Mark Sussman and Phyllis Strong, aired May 7th, 2003. A group of Borg, which of note are not the Borg from the Delta Quadrant, they're from First Contact, so they're left over from a time travel moment, are revived after a century frozen in the Arctic ice. Shenanigans ensue. So
many shenanigans. I remember being super excited by this episode when it came along. Without a doubt.
I remember being super annoyed with this episode.
Now, I do share some of that with you because, again, much like the acquisition episode early in season 1, where we see but don't identify the Ferengi, and in season 4, when we have Romulan interaction,
Romulans are handled a lot better. I think.
Because this is kind of too much to being like. Okay, well, then 200 years later, when Cube flings the Enterprise D into the path of that Borg cube, there's nothing that they can refer to. Yeah, there's no kind of mission profile. There's not. I mean, you have to imagine that the Enterprise, the most sophisticated computer in the history of forever, has access to all Starfleet records of all time. So how was there nothing like, especially with Data on board, how could Data not say, well, I found a reference to this in the year 2152, blah, blah, blah.
The biggest hole for it is honestly Phlox being able to stop
to beat it, which no one was ever able to do.
The nanites weren't a thing with the Borg they weren't a thing until we saw them in First Contact.
Right.
Them using assimilation tubules instead of
exactly
knocking you out, taking you, and then chopping you up.
Right, which is what happened in Best Both Worlds, and it was just otherwise implied.
It's just one of those, like, if we're dealing with like late 24th century Borg technology and 22nd century Starfleet is able to beat it,
right? What the hell? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun episode. Don't get me wrong. I like consequences of time travel and stuff, but there's a lot of things that I thought were a little funky. I did enjoy that. It's like, well, they sent a signal where it's heading, the Delta Quadrant. When will it get there? Sometime in the 24th century. It's like, you didn't need to explain how the Borg figured out where Earth was, but okay.
Right. But again, they also didn't, because they discovered humanity because of Q. Q went, and then it blasted them 7,000 light years away, and they encountered a Borg cube, and then it was another year before the Borg, which is really weird because the Borg get around with transwarp conduits, so they don't travel in a normal way. So there's a lot of this episode that just really turned like it was.
Yeah, that's why that's like canonically and timeline stuff, and we all know I'm very, very picky about that.
Yeah,
this particular episode kind of wonks with that a bit, and I'm not super.
This was
enjoyable, but it's not just for timeline stuff. Not my favorite.
I will dub this episode Borg Cattywampus. Because it was. They took the entire concept of how everything, they kind of walked it backwards, and it just kind of drives me nuts. So anyway, moving on, we have the episode 24 is First Flight, again directed by LeVar Burton. And then looking forward to this directorially. Yeah. This last portion of the season is absolutely spectacular.
I mean, it helps that they're better episodes.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, exactly. Writer is John Saban and Chris Black, who I believe were staffers at the time. From May of 2003, upon the death of a close friend, Captain Archer tells T'Pol about his early career as an experimental warp engine pilot. I liked it. I liked it. This was the first true flashback episode. I love it. It dials things back, 15 years? 10 years, 15 years? I'm trying to remember how far back they actually went. Which is funny because they, you think about yourself the way, and of course we're younger than these guys are, you know, by a little bit, you know, think about how you looked 10 years ago versus the fact that in TV, when they're trying to change someone's age, they'll comb their hair a different way. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I mean, that's a tough one. And this was in the era before, you know, digital de-aging or whatever, which they do on television from time to time now. But back in those days, it was like a little bit of makeup or you change the lighting a certain way. So it's just, yeah, Archer's supposed to be younger and Trip's supposed to be a young man because he's in the flashback sequence as well. But yeah, you have T'Pol and the captain are flying around in a shuttle pod examining the stellar nursery, which is, you know, that's good because you're strengthening the bond between the two main characters of the show, which I like, and him kind of retelling the story about his frenemy, B.G. Robinson, who is Keith Carradine, great actor, and how they were, you know, kind of bitter rivals to be the first Starfleet test pilot to break the Warp 5 barrier, which is, of course, led down the long road, to developing the Warp 5 engine, which is what the entire series is about on Enterprise. So, yeah, some kind of cool stuff. I was severely irritated by the stupid waitress at the 602 Club, Rosie or Rosette or whatever. Oh, she'll marry the first guy that guesses the 5 names of her kids. Like, she just sounds like a bimbo waitress to me. Why and pardon me for anyone out there. I feel like there's going to be one listener who's going to send us hate tweets because I'm dogging on this girl, but I found her to be the most annoying part of the episode. I know that's probably weird, but I'm like,
hey,
really?
There's always like something. Like, as I said about some stuff, sometimes it's just a small thing.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Oh, so you think in the episode could be called definitely sweat the small stuff? Yeah, I like that better. Definitely sweat the small stuff. So yeah, exactly. I'm definitely sweating the small stuff. So anyway, yeah, cool story. I was annoyed by the waitress. I don't know, what'd you think?
I honestly forgot about the waitress.
Oh, you see, you see how just absolutely weird it is. The kind of stuff pops up.
But I actually really enjoyed this episode, partially because like we're seeing like just Starfleet doing experiments, Starfleet doing engineering, Starfleet trying to grow, and you saw like they're clearly building off of Cochrane's model. I mean, part of it was to save money. They're using the set from First Contact. Mm-hmm. But just a lot of that stuff and how like you go back to Archer, like totally like, oh, the Vulcans say we can't do that. Screw you guys. We're doing it anyway.
Yeah. Right.
And then you compare that to what Archer's doing now. It's a little bit different. He's still in the shuttle. He's with T'Pol, a Vulcan, and he's having like a civil conversation.
Right.
And like she's now his friend. So there's a lot of stuff that goes back and forth with the time shift and that story. And it's just really good, I think.
Yeah.
So, and also kind of fun to see like a version of Starfleet's mission control.
Right.
It's just kind of hilarious.
Yeah. And this was the very early beginning of Starfleet, because you do hear Archer refer a couple of episodes back when he's talking to Travis about, there was a time I was thinking about joining the cargo, the ECH, the Earth Cargo Service too. And it was just before Starfleet was formed. So you got to figure that Starfleet, if you doubt it, if it's 2153, because I'm great with dates, if it's 2153, and let's say the flashbacks of this took place 10 years earlier, so it's 2143 or whatever it is, that would put maybe Starfleet's founding in the late 2130s, would you think? Just or 2240?
2240, 2230, maybe 2230s. 36 somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel like if we went to Memory Alpha, it would totally be there. But again, keep in mind that's their Starfleet, because it's not till 2161 when the Federation is formed that we get Federation Starfleet that we all know and love, obviously, from everything else. But okay, this has been your nerdly nitpickers doing their nerdly nitpicking. Let's move on to the next one. I think that's you.
Yeah, it does say that they were found in the 2130s. Okay.
Oh, there you go. I got it.
Doesn't give us a direct date.
Bastards. I hate it.
Yep, that's all it says. Okay. I just had to look.
I understand. I really, really do. All right, next episode.
Okay, the next episode 25, Bounty. directed by Roxanne Dawson.
Woo! More royalty. That would, of course, be the actress who played B'Elanna Torres in Voyager. And I think she goes on to do quite a bit still in Star Trek, still in Enterprise at this
she's
point.
She's directed some stuff in Enterprise. I think she's directed one or two of Discovery and season 2 of Lower Decks.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. All right, cool.
Teleplay by Hans Tobiasen, Mike Sussman, and Phil Strong. Story by Berman and Braga.
Yay!
Aired May 14th, 2003. A Tellarite captures Captain Archer in order to collect a reward from the Klingons, meaning Duras, who have been searching for him since the events of Judgment.
Dun dun dun. So kind of a sad one, I think. But again, I'm not without clicking on the episode and kind of getting character names. This is a Tellarite who he's kind of like Lando Calrissian, anyone in kind of the Star Wars parlance who's had a bad streak of luck. Oh, it really reminds me of in Indiana Jones, the last one, the one that everybody hates, the Crystal Skull. Indiana Jones's buddy, Mac, who's like, oh man, I've had a big string of luck. So he just, he has no morals. He has no standards. He's going to do whatever he is. So, the Klingons are not, super happy that Archer got away because they still hold him responsible for basically embarrassing Duras, or Duras does. That's why he's got the bounty out on him. But this furthers that plot line, which does again bleed into the next episode. It was okay. I wouldn't call it especially memorable because, like I said, I don't even remember the name of the main guest star or anything like that. And in the end of it, obviously, I think he does the right thing.
Lund,
It was what?
Jordan Lund is the Tellarite.
Gotcha. So in the end, obviously, actually, this guy does deliver Archer for the bounty, but the Klingons end up stiffing him on the amount. They give him less than they said. And his whole motivation is to buy back his old ship. So it is kind of like Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon. But in the end of it, he doesn't get the money he was promised. The ship has been destroyed anyway, so he can't get it back. And so he facilitates Archer being able to escape after the fact, which is fine. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
and then you have a side plot of T'Pol's.
Oh God,
on Far getting kicked on.
Oh my God! And see, you're right. How could I forget? Kind of exemplifying kind of some of the worst things that they do in this series, which is just hypersexualizing poor Jolene Blaylock for the sake of the fact that it was on. I was going to say the CW because it was the CW. The CW was created by the merging of UPN and the WB when they both collectively went out of business. But it was just they just really worked super hard to make things sexy, and it was
doesn't work very. It doesn't work very well on Star Trek. It just doesn't.
Right,
and because that's not what it's about. And it's also just like it kind of goes against what Star Trek is about.
Right. And the same thing could kind of be said about Star Wars because Star Wars just always seems to get sex wrong. Luke and Leia kissing was a bad start to that. But yeah, they just always seem to, to kind of muck it up. But they're trying to be like, well, we have young males as viewers and let's, put a hot whatever in front of them and they're going to love it. And it just, you're right. It actually doesn't work, especially with Dr. Phlox being kind of an extraordinarily asexual character, even with what you find out about Denobulan society and the fact that they're all in, 3-4 marriages at a time. He says, well, Denobulan males they're really very demure. We don't like to talk about sex. And then she's like crawling all over him. So it's just like, it's just icky. And it's so super tacked on. Weird. It's such a super tacked on B story to be like, well,
we felt like they needed a B plot. And so they gave him a B plot. And it's like,
right. And it was just, it was just flops horrific. So anyway, it was kind of a blah, blah, blah to the end of the penultimate episode of the season. But when we get into the actual season finale, we're in great shape all over the place. So episode 26 is The Expanse, which was such a popular name, they turned it into a completely unrelated science fiction series that Oxtra has been after me to finish watching. It's the greatest thing I've ever seen. I watched a couple of episodes.
The books are great.
I watched a couple of episodes when it first came on, and I thought it was okay, but it was, not really okay enough to keep watching. But anyway, if you love The Expanse, still waiting for you to add us at Twitter and let us know at Secret Friends You if you love The Expanse, regardless. But anyway, The Expanse is the name of this episode. Directed by Alan Croker, who's a Heritage director. It's a Berman and Braga joint, which is easy to tell because it really lands it. We got this on May 21 of 2003. After an alien attack on Earth, Enterprise is refitted before being sent into the Delphic Expanse, which is actually featured on my history of the United Federation of Planets, which used to be right here. Now it's over on this opposite wall. You can kind of see where it's at. Yep. Subcommander T'Pol resigns her commission with the Vulcan High Command to stay on Enterprise, and Tucker is troubled by the death of his sister. Now, keeping in mind, this aired not even 2 years after 9/11, but it was a very strong allegory. Obviously, to that, you have the cold open of this episode is terrific. You just see open space, and a portal opens up, and a little orb spits out. And it's like it pans around, and you see that it's orbiting. It's Earth is right there. It then flips around and shoots a laser beam, which lands in Florida, starts cutting its way due south, and apparently it lands in Venezuela. Traveled 4,000 kilometers,
cuts across the entire Caribbean.
Yeah, it was just, and then that's the depth of the cold open, and then you go to the opening of the commercial, and you're like, holy shit, what the hell's going on here? You just don't know. It was really about as much of excitement as I think that they have done in the show to this point.
Yeah, it was probably the best teaser they had.
Yeah, I would say, and maybe really in some ways in all of Star Trek, though my previous favorite was Scorpion Part 1, the end of season 4 of Voyager, where you see
The Enemy's pretty good too.
Yeah, where Troy just finds herself a rhyme. But yeah, the Scorpion with the Borg cubes are coming in and saying their Borg sales pitch, and then you just see them blown up by something off screen. So they do land it sometimes, but I thought this one was great. But yeah, Enterprise is recalled to Earth. You find out in the end of it that 7 or 8 million people died in this attack on Earth.
Number keeps going up through the episode. Actually.
Yeah, exactly. So, and yes, you do find out that one of the victims was Trip's baby sister. So he's traumatized, and that's really going to set the course for his entire character arc within the next episode or the next season. But yeah, this episode has to finding out that it's a species called the Xindi that the Vulcans are familiar with. The Delphic Expanse, which is near to Vulcan, is something that the Vulcan are familiar with. They had a ship go in there that the crew went nuts and killed each other, and the footage got back to them. They're like, well, you just probably don't want to go.
Yeah, you don't want to go there.
And then the humans are like, we're going to always do what the Vulcans say not to do, because that's our deal. So they're getting outfitted. They're getting ready to go. The B plot of this kind of circles around. It's still Duras, and Duras has said, you know what, spinning right off of the last episode, I can't get a bounty hunter to get Archer, so I'm just going to have to track him down myself. So they attack him. They attack Enterprise early in the episode when they're entering her solar system. Other Starfleet vessels show up and save them. And then as they travel to the Delphic Expanse, which was a 7-week trip at high warp, they're just getting in there, and then they find out that Doris is following them, and they have a big battle, which is pretty sweet. They still haven't gone into the cloud yet, but yeah, they do a little aerial this and that, and in the end, Doris is killed, which is fine because obviously we know that the Duras series is going to go on, but and it does wrap up that plot line, so we don't have to deal with once season 3 is over, like, oh, they're still out for him. It's all said and done. I thought
bring in Daniels for a hot second.
So. Yeah, you're right, to just kind of keep the temporal Cold
Actually,
War.
No, not Daniels. It's Silic.
Oh yeah. Okay.
They bring in Silic, and he talks about like, hey, the Xindi are attacking because it's another Cold War thing.
Right, and you have
Cold War doesn't really come up much in the later season, but they just kind of like that quick tie-in.
Right, and you have the holographic dude in the background talking about, well, somebody from the future is manipulating this whole situation. Blah, 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 blah. So it was, I would say, without a doubt, of all season finales that I can think of within Star Trek, this one had the best setup going in, that had you asking a lot of questions, like, because at the very end they're like, we've reached the boundary of the Delphic Expanse, and he's like, take us in, and then that's the end. So awesome setup. You don't know what they're flying into. I mean, it's been set up that it's deadly, there's different weird, the laws of physics don't apply, and there's stuff out there that can make people go nuts and kill all your crewmates, like what happened to the Vulcans, and you just don't know. And so, yeah, we're headed in. Peter, it'll be a long time before we circle back and we start talking about season 3. Though I wanted to keep watching, and I'm like, well, maybe I should hold off.
I just kind of did anyway because
I was thinking. I also kind of slid back in because our next thing that we're going to take on is season 3 of TOS, and I'm only 2 episodes in, and it's very much a mixed bag.
Yeah, I watched all of season 3 of TOS. TOS.
Oh my gosh,
TOS is a little. rough.
My god! But we'll be talking about that certainly next week. So yeah, I like I said, I would go on record as saying I thought this had the best setup for what is an entire season arc of stories where you just say it's kind of, they likened it at the time, the people at UPN likened it at the time to my other favorite show that was on the air at the time, was Fox's 24 with Kiefer Sutherland, where you just had one story, though 24 became very formulaic very quickly because you always had an A story, which took half the season. Then things got turned on its ear, and you had a B story that took the second half of a season. It all took place in quote unquote real time.
Better than how some things have been doing it more recently, where like you had the plot that kind of it runs through,
right?
Like it starts here and then it runs through, but it's not like the primary focus all the time.
Absolutely,
like they do still have they still have some of their like, hey, let's do a dumb episode.
Yeah, exactly. Like they did the Cowboys and Indian one, the North Star, which it was a great episode. I liked, and it's funny. There was a one of the key characters from 24 guest starred in that episode. He was the sheriff, and his name is on the tip of my tongue. His name was Aaron on 24, but the name of the actor, who's somebody who did a lot of other Star Trek, right on the tip of my tongue. I could see his face, but it doesn't matter. All right, so wrapping up season 2, giving it 1 to 10 stars. I wouldn't say necessarily comparing it to season 1 or to what comes in front of it. How do you think season 2 moved the series forward as a whole?
I think overall, season 2 really moved the series along in terms of quality and character development. Like there's a couple stinkers in there.
Without a doubt. I mean,
every show has those.
And again, 26 episodes, especially by today's standards. I mean, we got 10 episodes in season 2 of Picard, and it was still terrible. You know what I mean? So you and you and I had this conversation not that long back that, you can still, it's quantity or less quantity, lack of quantity doesn't necessarily guarantee quality. That's what we found with Picard season 2. And you're right. There were potentially a lot more filler. There's going to be more filler episodes when you have a 26 episode season, without a doubt. But there were some great key episodes in this that move forward to Paul's character, like with the
and Archer's character.
Yeah, exactly. And Trip, and then everybody's story in this last episode. You know what I mean? So, so I really like what they did, especially in the back half. Because they seem to kind of coalesce in some storylines that were, and it wasn't even necessarily moving us towards the moment of the finale, because that was a shock. It wasn't like, how are we going to wrap this up? Well, let's have this big attack on Earth, and then we're going to have to go after this alien species and find out why they did it. But I absolutely love season 3. I cannot wait to talk about season 3.
Season 3's great.
Yeah. So, but again, you've already watched it, and you'll have to watch it again, obviously, as we do this next time around. And I don't think it's going to be a problem for you. So anyway, I would say that overall, I think while there definitely were some duds, there were some duds and some studs. I'm not changing the name of the episode to that. I'm sticking with the sweat the small stuff. But I liked it. So I look forward to it. I will admit freely, I am not dramatically looking forward to talking about TOS season 3, but
there's a couple solid ones in there.
Well, you know what? This is our mission. This is our duty, is to talk about every episode of Star Trek before we finally run out of it and have to do something else on the show. But that's when I started the show. And I took a little detour here and there because I've changed guest hosts a little bit. But you and I are of a like mind. You and I, when I brought you on the show, I said, this was our format before. Do you like it? This is what we used to do. He says, I want to continue to talk about episodes. And then we broke it down so that we did it in quarter segments so that we would have more time to talk as opposed to just racing through things. And now I'm blowing up too much time. But, we can breeze over the stinker. So anyway, with that, we bid adieu to Star Trek Enterprise for some time to come. Coming up next week, next episode, we're going to have Katie back. We're going to talk about Lower Decks season 1 in segment 1, and then segment 2, we're going to start TOS season 3. Peter and me, because we're not dragging poor Katie through that. We have too much respect for Katie to make her talk about Spock's brain. With that, Peter, take us out of here.
All right. For more information about Starfleet International, please visit Grand Petoskey on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter.
Yes, indeed. Please. And Peter, where do people find you out there in the socials?
You can find me on the interwebs at Petrus Aquinas on most things. So
there you go. With your unique commentary on every diggity darn thing. You can find me on Twitter at the C3. Spell it out. Of course, at Secret Friends U is our main Twitter tag out there on Twitter. April and I, and Peter's member as well, as I'd mentioned, are all part of the USS Grand Petoskey, a chapter of the Starfleet International fan club here in Michigan. We can be found at our website of that name and across socials in all variations. So, friends, thank you as always for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trekking.
Peace and long life.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.